Hi, friends. Hi, my Ohana. Today is July 5th, 2025. And if you are wondering why I am on the ground, you should be wondering how am I going to get up? Well, tech is not my friend today, but I wanted to make this video for you. We are going to use two fat quarters, some heat and bond light, and we are going to make this wonderful little fast and easy project. Now I'm going to show you an unedited video, hence me on the ground, and we are going to make this cute little gift bag, this wonderful mug rug, simple, and a coaster go with it. Just two fat quarters. So come back in. Like I said, unedited. Feel free to pause where you need to. Let's get our tools together and let's start sewing. Um, and I'm going to try to see if I can get myself up. All right, so here we are. Obviously, I made it off the ground. We, first of all, for just a disclosure, like I like to do in so many of the videos where I show you what I've made. I'm not a professional, have not been quilting that long, and definitely have not been doing any other projects outside of a few coasters here and there. And I do make hobo bags. I like to keep it really simple. I do not have a lot of time. Okay, so you're wondering, how did this come about? I was bored. I had a lot of scraps. I had a ton of fat quarters. And I was thinking, it's July. And I am not going to have a lot of time to get some Christmas gifts done. Now, this is really simple, but it does take a little bit of time and prep work to make your first set. After that, you're good to go. You can go ahead and work it like an assembly line. Go ahead and cut your projects. So again, we are making this cute little reversible bag. It has a very easy beginner friendly mug rug to go with it, as well as a matching coaster. You can open it up, throw some things in it. Think about how cute this would be, depending on the fabric choices that you select. Making a little gift, putting a little mug or some candy, or simply just giving it as is. Now, this is going to be relatively inexpensive. What you may need to purchase if you do not have it on hand is heat and bond light. Now, I always buy my heat and bond by the roll because I like to applicate it. So I buy my heat and bond by the roll or the bowl, whatever is least expensive. We're going to need most of our tools, our normal sewing tools, which is your ruler, your rotary cutter, a pair of scissors, and um, if you have smaller rulers, that's fine. But use what you have on hand. And this is not going to be perfect. We're not looking for perfection for your first one, your second one, or maybe even your 10th one. Okay, So I have these two fat quarters, and I've chosen this so it would show up on the screen. I am, hint, hint. This I purchased from Quilted Twins. I am not an affiliate, and I hope you can see that okay. I am not an affiliate. It's just my good friends Deb and Mona. We discovered them. We like their fabrics. They have wonderful deals. And so this is pretty much where I've been purchasing things lately. However, I am a chronic fabricaholic, and so I'm always shopping around for a good deal. This little fat quarter cost me $1. This is $1. So the fabric that I have is $2. $2. Okay. I'm going to set that aside. And what we're going to do first is we're going to set our fabric aside. While I move on to the next part, you may want to go ahead and give this a light starch and iron it out flat. You will get better results with that. Okay. So I have a piece of cardboard. I have a little 2.5-inch by 4.5-inch ruler. You can use a 4.5-inch ruler, 8.5-inch ruler, whatever you have. What I am going to do is on a piece of cardstock or very lightweight cardboard. This happened to be the insert from that fat quarter that I purchased from Quilted Twins. I want to go ahead and cut out a 2-inch by 1-inch strip from my cardboard. Okay, and now this is my paper rotary cutter. I use it for paper or cardboard. Most of the times I reuse my rotary blade from my rotary cutter. Once it gets a little dull or it has a little nick, I will put it in here to cut out paper, and it just expands the life expectancy of the rotary blade. So very carefully, just like you're cutting a piece of fabric, I am just going to cut out a 2-inch by 1-inch strip, just like that. And then I'm going to get a pen, and what I want to do is I want to find my 2-inch line. I'm just going to I want to find 2 inches. Sorry. Like I said, this is all live, so. I'll tell you what, let me just move to my other ruler, which is what I have been using. I'm going to find my 2-inch mark, center, and I'm going to make a line down here. And then I'm going to find my 1/2-inch mark. And make a line across here. Just like that. If you can see it, looks just like that. And then I have an old seam ripper, and you can see I already have the one that I've used on my other bags that I've made. But I'm showing you this from the beginning. Once you have all this ready, like I said, you can just spend a day in your sewing room and turn them out. It's also a great last minute gift. But right where that corner is, I want you to poke a hole in it and make a good hole. Now don't worry, this is not my good seam ripper. This is a seam ripper that I just happen to have on hand. It is not the one that I use all the time. And so I have this little pinhole in there. And I'll show you the reason for that after a bit. If you have an old stylus, you can go ahead and use an old stylus and make it. And I'm going to put this aside because I do not need that any longer. I also have my tools that I'm using for this particular project in my little basket, and it just helps me keep a little organized on my sewing table. So we're going to work one at a time. And let me flip my iron on. And from the length of fabric, or I'm sorry, width of fabric, so if you're using a fat quarter, that would be your selvage end to your, where they made that fabric cut on. Okay. And then I want you to do it to both of them. Go ahead and fold it down. This one doesn't. That one got cut it off, but anyway, I want you to go ahead and give it an absolutely great crease on it. So I am going to go ahead and I normally do not iron on my table unless I'm doing a video or happen to be on a live with one of my friends. And again, this will be very easy. It's going to seem a little long because I'm giving you instructions, but when you're by yourself, it goes much faster. Once you get the first one out of the way, you kind of know what you're doing, what your mistakes were, and how to fix those. I'm just giving it a nice crease. This will help me. At times you will see me stand up because I cut better when I'm cutting fabric, especially when I'm cutting pieces for a quilt top. I stand up. Just gonna move that over for a bit. And I am grabbing my 12.5-inch ruler. I'm just going to make sure everything is lined up nice and neat. If it helps you to do one at a time, that's fine. I'm comfortable with cutting the fabric, 4 layers. And then we are going to cut this 10.5 by 10.5. So I want you to put that bottom line right there on that 10.5 mark. And we are going to go ahead and cut this to 10.5. Slight turn. Cut that down to 10.5. This is going to be for the bag, but I'm going to go ahead and just set this aside for a minute I hope it doesn't go anywhere on my table. Now with the open side of your fabric, we're going to cut for the coaster and the mug rug. For my mug rug, I am going, or for the coaster, I'm going to cut 4 5-inch pieces. Get that. Now I'm going to open this up and you see all that wonderful fabric that's left over. We're going to utilize as much as possible, so I'm just laying it on each other. And I'm cutting the mug rug. And this one, it's going to become long. I am going to just be able to get not even quite 7.5. So I'm going to do this one just to make it a little more even. I'm going to cut this one by 9 by 7. If I can get a 10 by 8, I will. I'm not really sure why I can't get a 10 by 8 on this one, but I'm going to do, you know what, let's just go ahead and do the full length of 10 by 7. If that's what we can get, it'll just be a little oblong or rectangular, longer. That's going to be the mug rug. And at some point, we're going to grab some batting, but we're not going to worry about that now. I'm going to set these aside. When we get there. Okay, let me get that back in here. Now I have my 2 10-inch by 10-inch on the fold. So what we essentially have is a 20-inch by 10-inch. I will say that if you happen to have directional fabric, you are going to want to cut it 10 inches by 20.5 inches, because you're going to have to piece that together so that the directional fabric is all facing up. So I'm going to take this, and then I want you to repeat the same thing with your heat and bond light. I don't know if with your heat and bond light, I want you to repeat the same process, but I want you to cut this 9.5 by 9.5, and you will see why. So it doesn't matter which one, but select your fabric. Let me grab. And this, you're just doing this on one. You're going to open your fabric up. And I normally do this on my ironing board, so I would have more space. You're going to line that crease up, and you're going to kind of find the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Oh, sorry. And you want that bumpy side down. And you're just kind of evening everything out. If it's not quite even, that is all right. And then I start from that crease. And we are actually going to give this a very, very good iron. Now, I will put my other fabric that I'm using on top of it, and that is just to keep any glue ooze from seeping onto my iron because nobody wants glue. And I want to make certain that everything is sticking properly. That heat and bond light is adhering very well. That all my corners are sticking like right there where it's curling. I want to go back in there and make certain that that is down. Now, unlike your piecing where you don't keep that iron on there forever and ever, you really want to make certain that everything is adhered correctly. So make certain that your iron is nice and hot. And I'm going to move that. Let me get that little piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. And then I'm just going to put that aside and let that cool. It's much easier that way. Because I use this, I lost my crease and I want to go back. I want to go ahead and get my crease back on there. I feel like I'm sitting so low, like I didn't quite make it off that floor. But like I said, tech was not my friend this morning. Uh, my streaming service or the platform that I use, Streamlabs, it kept wanting to connect the same camera. And I don't understand that. But and so I have two of those. I've got that nice and completed. I'm going to open this up and you have to determine if this is almost like a batik. Anyway, so we're going to go right sides together. Don't peel off your paper. We're going to go right sides together like you were if you were putting some pieces together for a quilt top. And you can do a pin or you can use clips. I find for this project, clips works better. So I'm just going to put a clip right there in the corner or that crease in the middle. And a crease right there. And I forgot an important step. We can't complete this bag without this portion. So let me fold this up, making sure everything is even. Got everything nice and creased. Now I find this portion is best to do all four at once. It works out a little better. Stick a clip on this side. Whew, almost made a mistake that I might not have been able to recover from. But truly, everything in quilting and creating is recoverable from. No one's getting hurt. Nothing's getting harmed. The only thing is, if you cut it a little short, your bag may be a little shorter. So I'm going back to my 2.5-inch ruler that I have on hand. Again, you can use your 12.5 or whatever you have. And I'm going to put it right there on the corner. So it is on the very corner. I'm going to make a mark. with my fabric pen. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And here's where a little fun comes in. Put that back, get my rotary cutter, move inside. I have a drunkard's path, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's a drunkard's path, and I have several different sizes. But I find that it's the right curve angle for this project. If you do not have a drunkard's path or a curve, go get you a little saucer plate, a little dessert plate that you have in your kitchen, and it will work just as well. So what I'm doing is I'm actually finding that line that I just made, and I'm staying on the inside of the line, not the outside. So that 2.5 by 2.5, and I'm very gently just going to cut around that curve. I like to put the curve. If you wanted to make a straight cut, that is perfectly fine. This is your project. I am not going to criticize you in the least. So I'm just staying on the inside of that curve again, and I'm going to do it to both sides. And I cut a little bit more than I wanted to there, so let me just finish it up. My bag is going to be just a little longer. Put that, done with you, put that. Okay, so back to what we were doing. We're going to open it up, and I'm going to pin it on that fold. Again, don't remove your paper because it will make things a little difficult. And then I just want to pop in a few more clips because I want to keep everything together when I sew it, such as this. So I don't think I was quite on that fold. So let me make some readjustments. And if you can see it, I want to make certain everything is matched up. Nice and straight. And if you have to readjust like I am, you know, there's no rush, there's no hurry to it. Your first one is always a learning experience. And I just want to keep everything nice and tidy. I'm turning it around so you can see it. And you put however many clips you want. Now, some of you will not even clip it because you're very comfortable with what you're doing, and that is fine. This is okay, so then I want you to make a mark because we are not going to sew between the mark. And I've got relatively fat hands, so I like to make mine where I can comfortably maneuver. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around this and go gentle on the curves, but it's a slight baby curve. It's a slight baby curve. It's nothing too intimidating. Go the way and stop at that first line that you've made. Now for this, I'm going to actually have to put my table back up. But we're not going to be doing any major cutting that will detract from it. So I am just going to go ahead and I've pushed my sewing stitch length down to 2.0 because I just like my seams a little tighter. And I am going to back tack. And again, I'm just going to go a 1/4 inch all the way around. When you come to the curve, just go a little easy. Follow it along. Follow it along. Adjust if it helps. You can fold it up. Make certain everything is still aligned and you're catching both pieces of fabric. And yes, I am sewing on the heat and bond paper. But you all you FPPers out there know that it doesn't really hurt anything. Just move your clips. My clips tend to get caught between my table and my sewing machine. And that's because it just has this little gap. And I get really frustrated if I forget to move it. Almost there. I actually may be on the home stretch. Backpacking at the end. Okay, so I've sewn all the way around and I have my little opening. What we're going to do now is we're going to just trim off some of that bulk. So at all the corners, you just want to trim off some of that bulk without trimming into the seam, because you don't want to do that. You've just done all that hard work and you don't want to have to re-sew anything. But you know what? It happens. And if you accidentally sew into the seam, just take your just put it back underneath the sewing machine and give it a couple stitches, back tack it a couple times, and everything will be fine. We all get distracted and we all make a mistake in the sewing room. Okay, on those curves, what I want you to do is just, again, take a couple snips up to but not through the seams. And this will just help it turn out a little bit more easier and prettier. But you know what? It's handmade, and anybody that you gift it to will appreciate the time and effort you put into it. So if it's a little wonky, it's a little wonky. Now right there where your opening was, if I can find my opening, on that line that you drew, I want you to snip up there, again, not cutting it into the seam. Just snip. Okay. And then we get to peel the paper off. And this might be satisfying for some. It's not my favorite portion. But on the first one that I made, because I tested a few when I was making this is my pattern, by the way. It is not anybody's pattern. I did not see somebody else do this and do it. If there is something like this out there, I apologize. I did not watch it, steal it, see it. It is just creative minds thinking alike. We want to get that paper off as best we can. We're not going to get too caught up if there's little pieces in the seam. And it peels right off because it's meant to. Except I didn't quite get that portion down. So I'm peeling off my paper. It's got my papers peeled. It's sticky. Now let me turn my iron on again. And you guessed it. We are going to, well, let me do this first because I don't want to get sidetracked. I might get ahead of myself, which I often do. So let me find my opening, and I'm going to reach my hand in. Anyway, I was saying, I took the paper off on the first one, and my sewing machine did not like it. It just kind of stuck to it. It did not want to cooperate. I did get a little frustrated. There were no tears involved, but there was maybe some not so kind words said. So I'm going to turn this all out. Now I'm going to get a turning tool. My turning tool of choice is my, let me find that opening, as my chopsticks, because I have a lot of them and they just work out better for me. Some of the other turning tools, I get overly aggressive and poke through the fabric. I don't have that issue, but you do want to poke those corners out. And this is where cutting, taking those little snips into the curves really comes in handy, because those curves come out very, very nice. And again, this is handmade. Everything looks different. We don't want it to look like it was made in a production line at some factory that you could have purchased at the dollar store. We don't want that. We want some personality to our makes. So if it's a little off or a little wonky, I'm going to let it flat like that as best you can. And I have a little seam roller. If you did the Sew Sampler box, you probably received one in the Sew Sampler box at one time or another. If you are in any type of club, you have probably received one. Or if you're like me, you had purchased one for yourself because you saw it on somebody's YouTube channel and you just had to have it. And that is okay. If you don't have one, use your fingers. God gave you fingers. And it is fine to go ahead and finger press this out. And the reason I do that is I'm just double checking to make sure that I've popped everything out and that I can see the curve. Okay, now we're going to get that iron. And remember, we've got the heat and bond, which is sticky on both sides. It is for applique, or it's used for applique. And I generally start from the end. Sometimes if your other fabric is peeking through, it is what it is. And there's pretty much no going back once you did it. You see, I've avoided my opening for now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that side. This is going to be totally reversible. So use two gorgeous fabrics together. Mix it up. If you want to do it in solids, that's fine. You could do Christmas and just a standard everyday print. People can use it to re-gift a gift in. They can use it for their car to collect trash in. And now I'm just folding that portion in where I left my opening and I made my little cuts. And that folds in nice and easy because we took that little snip on it. You just want to make sure everything is flat, everything is adhered to. When you're working with any type of adhesive product, such as Heat and Bond Light, Heat and Bond Ultra, you want to make sure that it has a chance to come up to temperature. I got a little pleat in there, but that's okay. So I'm going to let this cool off to the side. And put that there. Now, one of the things is you are going to determine, and let me get this bag. It is reversible, but you're going to determine what your main fabric is going to be and what is going to be your inside fabric. Okay? Because it's just going to have a straight edge, but we're going to do a little pleating on it. And so when we get the pleat, and you see that I'm turning this inside out for you, you will see the pleat on the other side, just like that. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, and it's kind of white on white, but there's actually the inner pleat, which is perfectly fine. But that is what, when you reverse it, turn it inside out, it will look like. Okay. So let's touch our fabric, make sure everything is nice and neat. This is going to be my main fabric, and you can see that it's not lined up perfectly. Again, this is homemade. Some of you are really OCD, so your things are going to be nice and neat. I am going to put a clip right in both places, and I'm going to just give that a nice finger press. And I'm going to make certain everything is as attached as it can be. Okay, or aligns as best it can be. Again, you see a little bit of that green. Now this part is important. You use your fabric marker. Find your halfway point of your handle. This will be your handle. And it is my handle is about 5 inches, so I want to find the 2.5 inch mark. And I'm going to just come down, and I hope you can see it. I'm going to come down about 1.5 inches. somewhere an inch and a half. Going to turn it over, find my 2.5. This is a 2.5 inch, 2.5 by 2.5 inch ruler. And I'm just going to come down and find my 1/2 inch mark. Okay, so let me find that little piece of paper that we made earlier that I said to keep aside. You're going to line that 2.5 inch mark with the short line. So the short line here, you're going to put it down there. You're going to grab your stiletto or that whatever you want to use that is sharp, a pen, and you are going to stick it in that hole we made. And you're going to be aggressive, a little aggressive with it. You want to make sure it goes through all the fabrics. Don't worry about it. And this just kind of keeps it centered. So let me find my stiletto. This is one of my purchases from Declutter. That is, I'm making a hole, and I want to be able to see it. Since those people who put on snaps on things, you know what I'm talking about. And this is going to be our center point. So we're going to take our pen, find that hole, make sure I'm in that hole, and then lost my hole. And I'm going to trace out that block, that cardboard piece, that little cardboard template. And you want to be able to see it, especially if you're on dark fabric like I am. Turn it over. Find your hole. And I do it this way. There might be a way that's a little easier for you, but I do it this way, and it just kind of helps guide me. That way I know when I'm making my tracing out, everything is about even. This is not going to be perfect because some of you may be, but I'm not a perfect sewer. So. All right, so I've made one line. Take these out for now. And then what I want you to do is go around to your sewing machine and sew on that line with a straight stitch, and I want you to go around twice. Okay? So find it. And go around twice. Take your time if you need to. Again, this is not a competition. This is just us using some scrap and hopefully getting something nice out of it. Get out of the way. Again, I want you to sew on that line as best you can. And these are going to be our handles, so you're really trying to reinforce that. really want to reinforce that seam.
And then we have something scary coming up.
Actually, it's not that scary, but totally doable. And when you're going back around again, if you're not quite on that line, it's okay. Don't give yourself a hard time. Remember, this is your first one. You want to back tack, or if your machine tacks for you, you want to do that. And you'll want to snip these threads. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. So 2 times around. I have mine, my sewing machine, my stitch length at 2.0. I think on this blue fabric, I should have used the chalk. I do have some chalk. I'm almost to the end. Almost. If I can hit the line, hit the stitch. So I have sewn all the way around it. I have sewn all the way around it. You can see, and you can see that there's a little pleat in there too, but I don't know if that shows up any better. But I've sewn on the line twice, so I'm going around. Now here is a little bit of the scary part. And okay, find your line. And I don't think I can make this zoom it in anymore, so I'm so sorry. With your ruler, and I want you to put your ruler where it covers the thread and it is even. I normally do a 1/8, but I want to be able to see the thread under the ruler. Now this part, be brave, be brave. I am going to cut not the seam, not the stitches that we just sewed, but just the just that, and I'm going to flip it around and do the other side. So I'm just doing the inside. So you get as close. I don't have a small rotary cutter, which probably would have worked better. Put that there. I'm going to snip that in half. So now I have 2 flaps. You can see my cutting mat. And then I'm just going to kind of snip towards that corner where I didn't catch. Ooh, and I'm really crooked on that stitch. And I'm making my handle. So repeat on the same side, getting as close to there as possible, and just kind of snip as close as you can without catching those stitches. So let me do this other side. And I want to be able to see the stitches under my ruler. And I'm going to cut without cutting. So I'm going to start a little before the stitches, inside of the stitches, and stop just a little on the outside. And be not afraid. Be fearless. Be fearless. Now you could stop at this point if you wanted to. What I actually do is if you have a sewing machine that has a zigzag, I actually take a small zigzag around it. It kind of finishes it up. It finishes it up, but it also strengthens. So I am just going to do it, and I'm going to do it as close to the edge as possible. Now, we did use the heat and bond light, so there should be very, very minimal shredding. Okay. So I am just going to go around. And I'm just doing this once. Going all the way around the edge, and I am, like I said, I'm just reinforcing my handle. I made the one that I showed you because I had been playing, and I made one in a whole set in an hour. And again, I am tacking and cutting off my thread as I go. I'm going to repeat the same thing to the other side. And don't you get excited when don't you get excited when you make something and you just want to share? Well, Mona, my good friend Mona, did what? And I have Discord channels. And we come together, we sew with each other, with everybody who's joined. You do not have to be a member to join it. The important thing is to find your people, find the people who will not criticize you and who will help you and will give you support and help you develop those tools that you need to just grow your craft. We're almost done. In fact, I'm looking at the time and I probably need to feed my husband. Videos take a little bit longer to make. Okay. So now, cut that off. Cut that off. Now, with the insides facing together, you cut these loose threads. Oh, that's just a spare thread. And so you can see it looks like that. That's what the inside looks like. You don't want you to go ahead and put a clip. Line it up. Put one of those wonderful clips. And if your holes are not, if your handles are not even, don't worry about it. It will come even at time. And I really don't think most people that are not rude will look in and say, oh, that's just even. See, mine is peeking out just a little, and I'm going to leave it. I'm fine with that. So on the creased end, I want you to get your ruler again. If I can find mine, let me put some of those in my container. With your ruler again and your pen, I want you to, sometimes I get so confused with some of these rulers. So confused. I want you to find a 1/2 inch, 1 inch from the bottom, mark 1 inch from the bottom, back and front, on the bottom by the fold. This is where we're just going to pleat it up. Bottom by the fold. Then you're going to fold it open like this, find those lines, and match those lines up on both sides. Mix them up. Sometimes it helps if you have an extra pair of hands. Necessary. And then you want to make sure everything is straight and neat. And you're going to give it a clip on the bottom side. Okay. Make sure those lines are, again, this is going to create our pleat. Make sure everything is tucked in nicely, nothing is sticking out. And don't you know, when you're doing a video, or whenever you're trying to show somebody how to do something, it doesn't quite turn out the way you want it to. It's not as easy. Then we're going to give it a nice press with our hands. Okay. And you can see that a little grain is showing. Again, I'm not going to worry about that. That's just because I was in a rush. Now we're just going to take a 1 inch seam. We want to make sure that we cover it, that we're still at a 2.5. You want to go ahead and see that you do want to back tack on that. So drop it. Oh. And it helps if you change your stitch back from the zigzag. So I'm going to back tap it there. And of course you want to use coordinating colors of thread, if at all possible. I did not change out my thread. But you know what? These are testers, and they will be for the grandkids. And my grandkids do not care. They just like when they receive little fun stuff that me and Mom has made. Now you might need your stiletto to help keep everything nice and neat when you're going through. Make sure you back tack at the end. Get that out. Y'all, this is our last seam. I know this video is a little long, but I wanted to do it start to finish so you could see my trials and tribulations while making it. Just trying to keep everything nice and neat. I do not want it all. And I'm just kind of using my stylus to help with that. Keep it all together. And you know, it's a little thicker on that side anyway. So it's just not cooperating. So we make it work. No. No. We're making it work. You know, and as I'm videotaping this, I'm really hoping that my mic is on. Let's see. That's the end. Clip, clip, clip. Get all those loose threads, and there you go. How cute is that? It does stand on its own. That heating bond is just to give it structure without adding that bulk that batting would add. So how cute is this? Just really, really cute. Now, where is my mouse? I am briefly gonna pause. We're just gonna be on a break for a couple of seconds. The video will run. I'm gonna grab my batting. We're gonna make the coaster and the mug rug, which you probably know how to make. And if you do, just keep this running. Just keep this running and go off and make you another bag. Finish your bag. But I am just going to mute for a minute, turn off my camera, go check on my husband really quick, grab that batting, and I'll be right back. right, thank you for allowing me to do that. I'm going to set that bag right there. We are going to grab the pieces that we cut earlier. Okay, so I've got my extra batting that I keep. We cut the 5-inch squares. We cut 4 5-inch squares. And I use my paper. I use my paper rotary cutter for my battery, my bashing, not my battery. And that just seems to help extend the life of my blade. And I don't know why it is. You know, I spend so much money on fabric and think I can't afford to buy rotary blade. So I've made a 4.5 piece, 4.5 by 4.5. Let me put that back up there. 4.5 by 4.5, and I believe that we cut a 10 by 7 because I couldn't get a 10 by 8. So I am going to cut a 6.5 by 9.5 piece of batting. Hey, and if you just got small pieces, go ahead and Franken bat your batting together for this. It won't mind. And I always like to just cut it a little bit smaller, about a 1/2 inch smaller. Because I don't like all that bulk in the corner if I made it 10 by 7, the full length of what we actually cut. Okay. So I'm going to work on, let's go ahead and do the coaster first. I want to determine what my back is going to be my front. Now you can make the coaster any way. You could technically make 2 coasters using opposite fabric and do nothing special. But because we have it here, it was part of the back border, I am going to make it special. Okay, I am. So I think I want the green on green because the outside is blue. And it just gives it something a little different. So this is my background. I'm going to fold these up into the corner to make a triangle. And I think I'm going to show you on this, since I'm not going to be cutting anymore. Just makes life a little easier. So I'm going to do that for that one. Do it for this one. And then I'm going to give it a good crease down. On both. I kind of showed you how to do it on my pop-up live, and I was talking to a couple of people that I sew with on Discord, and it is going live by myself is really, really difficult. And I do it not so much for the hours, but to get out of my comfort zone and say, yes, I can do things by myself. I'm going to stick a pin in this on both sides. And I want the corners facing out, so it's like you're putting your square back together. And then I'm going to take a very small 1/8 inch stitch all the way around it. And I'm not really back tacking, I'm just wanting to keep everything together. I'm just stitching all the way around it, making certain that I catch all my fabric. I want everything to be kept together and catch that fabric. And y'all know, if you've watched me before, if you've joined me on any of the lives that I've been a part of or participated in, you know I work full time, and time to sew is a luxury. I wish I could sew all day long. I actually took a day off for the 4th of July, so this is my 3rd day. I'm enjoying my 4th day, and I have just been in my sewing room, creating, crafting, cleaning, doing all the things. Alright, I'm going to pop those pins out that I put in. Now what I want to do is I want to actually go with my finger and just curve. And there's going to be a natural curve that will happen from corner to corner. We're going to get our iron to help set this. But we're just going to kind of curve it. Because why have just make a plain coaster when you can do something just a little different? Just a little different. And this coaster is nothing new. You've probably seen people make it before. I don't think I came up, I know, it's not that I don't think, I know that I did not come up with this technique on my own. I've been making this for a while, and I had to have learned it from somewhere. But who I learned it from, I don't remember. It was 3 years ago. Okay, then I'm just going to stitch around where the curve is on the inside, but close to the edge of that curve. And you just go slow as you need to. This coaster takes a little bit longer, but it's so worth it. Isn't having a knee lift, if you have one, great. You can just continue doing the things. All right, so that came together real easy. Now we're gonna sew it right sides together. All right. Oh, you know what I like to do is I like to get my glue stick and put a little bit of glue down, kind of center my batting, and try not to stretch your batting because it gets really deformed, and you know, you don't want to pull it and have a really low spot. So I'm just kind of setting that glue in and letting it dry. So right sides together, making sure everything is lined up. You can do this part if you want to or not, but make a line, and that just helps remind you where you need to stop and start. And this is a little smaller. Okay, so we're just going to sew 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and we're going to back tack at the beginning and the end. And that just helps keep everything nice and even. Real time, people. This is real time.
coming around that curve. One more time. Back tapping on that edge. That pen. Go ahead and trim around those corners to take out some of that bulk. Making certain not to cut into that seam or those stitches that you just made. And I'll tell you, putting some starch on your fabric really does help in the situation for this project. Just makes things stay nice. And then right where the opening is, like I did on the bag, I like to clip down right before and stop just short of the seam. Just makes everything stay nice and neat. You're going to turn it out. It's a smaller hole, so you just have to be patient. You don't want to rip the seams that you made. You just want to slowly encourage it to come out, pulling and tugging, but don't tug too hard. Working it so it's out. If you have fat fingers like me, sometimes it doesn't want to work. It takes a little bit more effort. Then get your chopstick and work those corners. Don't push them out so that they look like, you know, like these little creatures that are hanging off your corners, your rounded corners or your edges. And if you notice that I did put the batting on the top when I was doing it, and that is so when you turn it over, that the batting stays on the inside. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of work that. I've trimmed it so that the batting is there. We're going to give it a nice press. And sometimes this just gets a little finicky. Just be a little patient. But with the clips, it should fall into place. And you want to just get that a good press down. Good press down. Make sure all your corners are out. One, we're going to do with my chopstick. Golly. Pop that one up just a little bit more. And there was one more that I just need to pop out a little bit more. And so I'm just going to go ahead and take a stitch around the edges. That's just to close up. You will need to do a back tack. If your machine has a tacking stitch, go ahead and use that. We just want to close everything up nice and tight. You may need your stiletto or a pen or a tool to just help you around that curve. But we're just going to close it in, and it's not going to be quite a 1/4 of an inch when we're sewing this out. We're going towards the edge, and we're looking at probably 1/8 of an inch because we want to catch that opening. And unlike free motion quilting, like I love, you don't want your stitches to be the focal point. If it happens, it happens, and like this will not pull out, so I'm just poking it along. Be patient with it. Go as
as you need to or as slow as you need to. Is a quick back tack. Trim off your threads. And I'm not throwing it on the floor. I'm actually, there's a trash can right there. So there you go. There's your coaster for that. We're going to set that aside. In fact, let's stick that in the bag. Last thing, really, really easy. We're going to make our really easy mug rug. That can double as a mouse pad as well. Where's my glue? Just going to put a little glue on it. And I'm using Elmer's glue stick because it is totally washable. Finding, just kind of eyeballing it. And I'll turn it over. I don't iron on my batting. And I'm glad I looked at that because this is actually the back. So I'm going to turn it over. And we're pretty much going to repeat the process that we did for the coaster. I'm going to stick a pin in it. I'm going to mark where my start and stop point is. And this just helps me because I do get distracted. You may not need that. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around. And you're wondering, oh, where does the quilting portion come of it? Or to make it look all quilted? Well, I will show you because it does not take much. So I'm going to go ahead. Take 1/4 inch around. I actually like making these because it goes really, really easy. I'm almost at that stopping point where I marked. Trim off those edges. Oh, I'm so hungry. I'm making chicken and bacon sandwiches for lunch today. Tomorrow, when I'm on the live with Deb and Mona on Mona's channel, I will be cooking him a little bit better meal. You know, I cook out of necessity, not out of love. I can cook, but quilting is kind of my first love. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Whew, I thought I ran out of bobbin thread and I'd have to do that again. I was like, where am I going to? Where's the seam? Okay, so we're going to turn this one out. Okay, this one goes a little easier.
turn, turn, turn. And we just want to keep it together. It's a little bit bigger fabric, so again, I'm going to use my chopstick. Pulling out those poking at those edges, making sure everything is lying flat. Getting all those edges, all those seams nice and flat. This went so fast that my iron is still warm. It has not turned off. And we are on the home stretch, people. I know it's been a long video. I hope you do enjoy it. I hope if you're watching it and you've never followed me before, that you like and subscribe. I don't put out too many video contents because of my work schedule, but when I can, or if there's something new that I've learned or want to share, or I've created a personal pattern that I want to share, I will make a video. I do not sell items. I do not quilt for people. It is purely just a hobby, mental health satisfaction. Most of my quilts and other items go to charity, but the mental reward is great. So let's go ahead and take about an 1/8 of an inch seam again. Make sure you put that little back tack because you don't want it to come apart on you. Want to make sure you get that you close that opening. Okay, and I'm just going to put a giant X, so I'm going long way, short way. I'm going to lift it up and eyeball where my corner is. Come down, like I said, I'm just putting an X. Might need to push it a little. Up through. I'm just pushing it down. Eyeballing that back. And then I am going to sew it the other way. Come back down. There's one section that I did not do. And just finished up. A little bird's nest in there. Y'all, don't be like me. Close your scissor. Ooh, I thought that was my my little scrap bin or my trash bin. getting the little pieces off. So I've just done an ends because it's a tiny mat, so you don't need to quilt a lot of it. You just want to make sure that it stays down and it stays flat. You do want to give it an iron. Nice little press. Keep everything pretty. I'm going to turn that off. And here we have it. Our little gift set. So we've made this bag real time. You've seen my errors. Got a little gift set that's totally reversible. And you can see that you will have that little bit on the when you turn it over. That's absolutely not a problem. You know, use fun colors, use fun fabrics, use your scrapbook, get creative. So there is that. And how do we want to sample that? Like that. And there you go. So let me grab my mouse. Let me see if I can get back down here and say bye. Thank you. In fact, I could probably do this. Let me just raise this up a little because y'all, I'm getting old. I thank you. I thank you for hanging out with me. It's been a long process, but we got it done real time so you could see that it can be done, that there is no props or gags, and that everything does not come out perfect on my end, but we try. And that's what I want to do, is encourage you to try. So until next time, y'all be blessed, be kind, keep sewing. Thank you, everybody. Bye.